name's Lani. Today I'm going to be doing 3 non-spoiler bookish reviews. Usually I share my opinions about the books that I've read in my monthly wrap-up, but I'm going to start doing these videos of non-spoiler reviews so that in my wrap-up I'll have more time to talk about other things that I had done that month, for example, music or TV shows. I'm going to be reviewing Miss Peregrine's Home of Peculiar Children by Ransom, Ready Player One by Ernest, Cline, and Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn. And if you only want to listen to one of these reviews, then you can just click the video, or the times that review for that specific book starts is in the description box. And also in these reviews, I'm not going to be having summaries of the book, so if you want the links to the Goodreads of the pages are down below in the description. The first book that I'm going to be talking about is Miss Peregrine's Home of Peculiar Children, and the trailer just recently dropped for that, and I personally really loved it, especially the fact that Tim Burton is directing it. It has me all excited for it. But then for the actual book, I'd probably rate it between 3 to 3.5 stars. I have no interest in continuing the series, and honestly this book just didn't live up to my expectations. I had thought this book was going to be really original and very creepy, especially after Jessie the reader really loved this book. It just felt really dull and very unclimactic to me. And it did take me a really long time to really get it into the book, and for the longest time I had put off reading it because I just wasn't interested in it. But something that did make me keep on reading was Ransom writing. For some reason I just really liked it, and it wasn't anything like poetic, but it wasn't anything blunt like Brandon Sanderson. It just was a fine mixture, I guess, of the both, and there are some quotes that I was like, dang, that belongs on like a Tumblr post. And I also wasn't really a big fan of their romance, but it really did feel like insta-love, and I didn't really feel much chemistry between the two characters. That was probably one of the weirdest things about the book. Not the photos, which were spectacular by the way. The stuff about the romance and the history behind it, that was just like, what? If you read the book, then you understand what I mean. I was okay with the main character. I mean, he seemed kind of dull, but not super dull. But then there was the other main character, Emma. She didn't seem at all peculiar like the other children. The next book that I'm going to be reviewing is Ready Player One by Ernest, Cline, and I'm rating this 4.5, 4.8 stars. And I'm going to try to start doing a thing where I don't rate it 5 stars unless it really blew my mind. And Ready Player One was a great book, and I can't really find any faults in it, but it just didn't really leave a big impression on me like Cinder or Mistborn. I don't know what to say other than the characters, the writing, the world, the plot, everything was amazing. And it was the nerdiest thing that I have ever read. There's references on like every page. You don't have to understand the 80s to read it, because I definitely didn't. But the way that Ernest Cline had melded all of these 80s references into a fantastic plot with not necessarily a lot of twists and turns, but a lot of really cool Easter egg hunt plot was super interesting. And I think the thing that I loved the most about this book was the characters. They didn't deal with normal worldly plot problems. Like, they had acne and they were overweight, and so they definitely weren't perfect people. And these characters were probably some of the most fleshed out characters that I have read, and I really enjoyed that, because not only was it in the way that they looked or the way they thought, but in their overall personalities. One thing that I didn't hate, but something that I wish they had kind of mentioned, was the world, because it is in the future and the world itself is kind of in chaos. A lot of the book does take place in the Oasis, so I wish that they had referenced the actual world a little bit more. And the next book is Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn, and I rate this one like 3.8 to 4 stars. This book is set in a different setting, in a different time period and culture. What bugged me about it kind of was it just felt like the author was shoving culture down your throat with all these folk tales and different types of beliefs and creatures. And for some reason it didn't really flow naturally in the story to me. And to go along with this whole culture being shoved down my throat, the overall writing just felt juvenile to me, and it wasn't necessarily bad, but I felt like I could tell that this was her first book. But with all this messy world building, in the middle to end, when you actually look back to see the world that had been created, it was actually really interesting with all of the creatures and the country's conflicts with each other and all the magical beings. But speaking about creatures, this was the definition of the first book in fantasy series are slow. The story just took a while to build up in my opinion, and it was near like the last third of the book where I was really getting interested in the plot and what was going on. She did throw in a couple of plot twists that I hadn't been expecting, but there wasn't anything mind-boggling about them. And also the romance at the beginning, it felt like kind of insta-love to me, but then after a while when they had gotten to know each other, that's when I really started liking the connection between the two. At the beginning, the main character annoyed me, but then as the book progressed, I was able to understand why the author had given her certain characteristics and personality traits, and I began to really like her. We're not introduced to many other characters, but the ones that we were introduced to, I really liked. There are a couple things about the magic system and a couple about the main character that kind of annoyed me, but there are also other things that I really love, but I don't want to mention them because they might be spoilers. But I do believe these are all my reviews for the books, so thank you so much for watching. Bye!